Greetings, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the friendliest club of 6110. Thank you so much for being here today. I usually start out with some kind of inspirational moment or something, but I need to read off something that came up very recently this morning that is disturbing to nonprofits in Tulsa.
Evan, pledge.
We'll get there in a second. As I'm finding this, would you please stand for our pledge of allegiance? Thank you for the reminder. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're all about transparency here and empathy and a very caring group. And I'm just going to really admit to you right now that was a really hard thing for me to do. Some of the executive orders that have passed down, found out this morning, are now going to be directly affecting nonprofits here in Tulsa. I'd like to read to you just one section of the executive order before we get started. Federal agencies must temporarily pause all activities related to the obligation or disbursement of all federal financial assistance and other relevant agency activities that may be implicated by the executive orders, including but not limited to financial assistance for foreign aid, non-governmental organizations, DE&I, woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. What that means for Tulsa right now, there's already a lawsuit in place. There is a phone call, a national Zoom this afternoon that I'll be joining. It doesn't affect Pause for Pause directly where I work, because we do not receive federal funding. We're all local funding. But I will tell you, if the Day Center loses federal funding, if Family Children's loses federal funding, if Grand loses their grants, if these groups lose their funding, it's going to be bad. It's going to be very, very bad. And the issue being is that for the past 10 years, all of these grantors have been required to have DE&I policies active in all of their communities. Some people are saying you need to pivot. Change is not easy, but this isn't a pivot. This is a rug pulled out from underneath a lot of groups. And if the Day Center, and I hate to quit using that as an example, but connected there, if the Day Center lost its funding from federal grants, I know they would reach out to our local philanthropic groups, but if that's where Pause for Pause gets their funding, there's only so much to go around. I'll share more in an email after the phone call. It's from 3 to 4 today. It's a national Zoom with the Low Income Housing Authority and Housing Solutions that sent out an email to area nonprofits about this information. I wish I could start the meeting off on a better note, but I can't. But I'm also thrilled that OK Policy is here at this time, during this time, for them to share with us. And Angela and Austin will have you guys up here in just a minute. I do want to change the pace a little bit, get a little bit excited. We do have some birthdays today. I'm not sure if they're here. Let me look. To our Jeff Castleberry, no, here. Where is he?
Not today, I'm afraid.
He's not here. John, happy birthday, January 5th. We celebrated you last week, didn't we? Yeah. And then Rob's birthday is coming up pretty soon.
It was Sunday.
It was Sunday?
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
We do have some more stuff coming up. We're meeting with the Will Rogers Rotary Junior High School Committee tomorrow. Susie and I are on a Zoom for that to pick out the students and staff of the month. And I've personally been in contact with the mayor, so hopefully he will be able to come pretty soon. Maybe even try to get him to come to the high school for us to honor the students and the teachers with Mayor Nichols there. That would be a wonderful addition to us. That will be coming up and staying in the news. Again, if you have ideas for speakers, the best way to do that is to email me, and you can respond to don't respond to the DACDB email it sends out. You need to send it to me personally. I'll start including my personal email in the DACDB so you can contact me. If you text me, unless you tell me my face and I get my eyes, I'm gonna forget. So I need an email to best remember that.
And the email address is on the little agenda.
Oh, yes, there's my email address on this great agenda. Thank you, Susie, again for preparing this. There are some upcoming events. Do we have the Sunrise Rotary has invited us to the Super Bowl party at University Club Tower where we had our holiday party. So if you're interested in that, talk to Laura.
Yeah, they really extended the invitation. They'd love for us to come as a club. And they're such a fun group. You can bring whatever you want. They will have a chili contest, and it's
Ooh, a
quite
chili
competitive.
cook-off.
So
Chili
we
and
want to
football.
do that for sure. And I was just on pins and needles for the football game because I was afraid if the Chiefs didn't win that you all wouldn't come. So I feel very good about it. So please come. And again, you can park at Mark's house and walk over.
No, there's no parking.
I'm kidding. But plenty of guest parking off to the south there, as well as parking along the road. So hope to see quite a few of you there.
What time do they start?
I think 5:30.
5-ish, I think.
5-ish.
And it's on the 9th? 8th.
9.
It's the Sunday.
Sunday, February 9th. So if you can come to that, and even if you wanna bring a pot of chili, I bet they wouldn't care. You can jump in on their chili cook-off. That would be wonderful. Anything else we have coming up? Anything I'm missing? Susie, Stan, Laura?
Mappins is coming.
Mappins is
Pets
coming.
training, you're welcome to come even if you aren't the president-elect. And then the district conference is coming up too, so lots of fun stuff happening at the district level.
Go over there just for the swag.
All right, well, I told Angela and Austin that I didn't have a huge introduction for them, so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. For those of you not familiar, they're here in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, 27-ish employees, a couple open positions possibly, so if you're interested in advocacy and policy that they do, welcome Angela and Austin, please applaud them as they come to the stage.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm not that official, so I'm just gonna stand in front. And for those of you who I did not get a chance to say hello to, hello. And I'm very happy to be here with you. I live in Oklahoma City. I'm one of the Oklahoma City crew. I'll introduce Austin. Austin is our Northeast Regional Organizer. He lives here in Tulsa. He's our on-the-grounds person. So he's the guy that if you need us, you can reach out to. He may be reaching out back to you to engage you, but he'll tell you a little more about how we would love to have you interact and engage with us. I wish I could come with a whole lot of happy news too. I just got back from DC Saturday night, very late, and I'm just trying to figure out even what today is. So it was last week, and we were at a meeting. I was there at a conference and a board meeting of an organization I work with, and it started on Wednesday, and we know the events of last week. So DC was a really interesting place last week. And I think those of us in the conference, it was a health policy related conference, came a little just subdued, just kind of maybe just worn out a bit. But the conference was.
How cold was it?
It was cold. It was real cold. But I had my coat and I layered up. I'm from Oklahoma. I knew how to dress, not some of those other jokers there. But it was after the end of the conference, I think everybody felt energized and hopeful. That was kind of the word I got, hopeful for the future, because we all felt that we as individuals had some power, but the collective power was huge. And those 700 people who were there at the Families USA, it was Families USA conference. And that's kind of how I feel now about what's going on in Oklahoma and maybe what's going on nationally. I'm old enough that we were saying to, I don't want to say this, but maybe like some of you in the room, to have experienced some really difficult times before in our history, the history of this country, the history of the world, and to see us come back. And we just keep, we made progress, and it seems like we're coming back, but we continue to make progress that's because the people in this country are strong. And I'm a firm believer in representative democracy. If we can make it work, that means people who are represented have to be engaged and involved. But when people speak and when people share their collective spirits and actions, we can make a difference. So, okay, policy is about that. We are a think and do tank. We have a lot of policy analysts. They study, research, and engage in issues ranging from criminal justice for adults, youth justice stuff, housing issues. We do a little health care, food security, some immigration stuff. We have tribal specialists. We have a team of researchers who really are programmers and numbers crunchers. So we can bring forth really good, solid policy information that's evidence-based, that's factual, that's objective. And then we have to take that information and do something with it. That's my role. We try to use that at the Capitol to influence legislators. It gets harder and harder. I served 15 years in the state legislature, and things are different from when I served from 1990 to 2005. So that means the voices of people even become more important. So Austin and our outreach team who are on the ground working with people, trying to teach, train, support, mobilize those voices so they can be heard at the Capitol. And therein lies our ability to make a difference. I was asked on the list to talk about a couple of things. I'm gonna talk real quickly about a few things. One said criminal justice. I'm gonna talk briefly about that, briefly about housing, and then real briefly about the executive order, or maybe some things that are going on the Hill. Even though we don't work national stuff, we are engaged with some national organizations, and then save some time for Austin to talk, and then open the floor real quickly to questions. This whole notion about criminal justice, the legal justice system, historically, you guys might remember state question 780, 781, which is where really things really started and the ball started rolling to make a difference. Oklahoma has always been known to having the highest incarceration rates for men, always top 5, for women, sometimes top 1 per capita in the world. It was very costly, it was eating up the budget. Everybody kind of knew that. State questions 80 and 780 and 781 went on the ballot, both were passed. One actually reclassified a whole lot of felonies as misdemeanors, reduced sentencing, and because of the way it was drafted, there were people who got out of prison, rightfully so. They were not a threat for the most part. These were nonviolent offenses, all of them were, a lot of drug-related offenses. And along with that state question that reclassified all of these sentences was this other state question that says, when we save money, because we're not incarcerating people that cost a whole lot of money, we can take those savings and use them in community-based care. It took more than 10 years, though, for us finally to extract those saved dollars and put them in community-based services. Our organization was responsible for the formula to determine what those savings would be. We negotiated that with some folk, and it's working. It's still not the right amount because we know there are still savings in the system that we have not captured, and there is still a great need for community-based mental health services, substance abuse services, those family support services, those services that are needed to keep people who are not scary, mean, evil folk out of prison, but into community-based care, where it's cheaper and they can stay with their families and take care of their children. So that's continuing. We've tried to approach other criminal justice reforms kind of around the edges. I think the one thing that's being addressed right now at the Capitol this year is a bill by Representative Danny Williams to reform the Pardon and Parole Board. And we know have been issues with numbers of people and votes and how the governor is engaged. But Danny's bill, Representative Williams' bill, would actually create some alternates, make it a bit larger, foster the power, nestle the power where it should be in those board members, create some criteria for those board members, make them full-time, create a pay system, so there's a real genuine focus on who needs to be released and put in community supervision or other kinds of supervision, in Oklahoma, hopefully again to save some money. The other thing I mentioned in that arena is as it relates to kids in our system. Oklahoma is one of the few states that has no age limit for kids to be adjudicated, meaning sent to court, charged with a crime, sent to court, and actually locked up for an offense. There's no minimum age in Oklahoma. We worked real hard trying to get a minimum age last year. We were not successful, suffice it to say. So our approach this year is, instead of trying to get a minimum age, we're just simply saying, if you're a first-time kid in the system and you're being charged or you're arrested or detained for a nonviolent offense, really things that kids do like throw rocks, break windows, do things, maybe smoke a joint or whatever it is they got caught for, we're gonna not put them into the system. We're not gonna send them to court. We're gonna divert them into some community-based services that we know kids respond to. We know about their mental health and their growth and development, so just locking them up, it just makes more criminals for the adult system. So we're working hard on that, and I'll stop there in terms of those issues. We've been working a lot on housing issues, trying to keep people in their homes. Eviction can happen really fast in Oklahoma, and we know how hard it is, and rents are going up, and people are being evicted simply because they can't afford to pay rent. So we're just trying to create a longer process to give people a chance to pay that rent so they don't get evicted, to give them an opportunity to work with landlords so they don't get evicted, and then to make sure that people who might complain because they have no running water or the sewer is backed up, give them some rights so the landlord doesn't just wait and say, that's okay, we're not gonna fix it, and when it's time for you to renew, we're just not gonna renew your lease. And then there you are, homeless. So we know people don't complain because they don't wanna lose where they stay. So there are a lot of issues related into housing, criminalizing homelessness, empowering cities and towns to do things or not do things. Like, if you're not in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, you can't spend any money, you can't provide any services to the homeless. That's crazy. So there are some crazy bills at the Capitol this year. There's a way, if you're interested in tracking those bills, we can talk about that. I can share that information. It's easy to learn how to do those things. And last thing I want to mention before Austin comes is about taxes. Everybody wants to get rid of taxes. I mean, there was a bill that basically says for veterans. I mean, I have veterans in my family. My dad was a veteran, but we're just going to not let you have to pay ad valorem taxes. No more property taxes. That would decimate our schools and our libraries and our county health departments. There are bills that say we're going to figure out how to get to zero income taxes. I mean, we're not Florida and we're not Texas. I mean, we do have state income taxes, and they're some of the lowest in the country. But if you do away with all those state income taxes, I mean, we're talking about almost 2/3 of our budget. So then what? So, I mean, golly, there are all these bills out there that sound really great on the surface, but if you do a little digging, you don't have to go deep, you'll realize that, maybe these bills are not in the best interest of most Oklahomans. They might sound good, they might save some of us, maybe $1,000 or so a year, but the cost is huge to the rest of society. So we do focus on sales tax cuts, the sales tax relief credit. We talk about child tax credit. We say we target tax breaks for those who need it most. And we know that those individuals will spend it, they'll turn in the economy. So there is really some benefit to targeting tax cuts if we want to do tax cuts. So let me just stop there and just simply say there are a lot of things happening. There are a lot of crazy things being proposed. The president's most recent executive order in the series. I spent some time trying to read those 26 or plus executive orders he issued on day one. It's like, oh man, my brain was exploding. So there are some things that are really scary out there. And we're a nonpartisan organization. We don't take a position. We just simply say, here's what's gonna happen. If this happens, all of our research, all of our study, all of our objective analysis says this is probably going to be the impact. And if it's bad, it's bad. Just like what was issued today. Even though it doesn't affect those individual grants, like my daughter who's third-year med student called immediately and said, what's this gonna do to my student loans? I said, nothing, at least not right now, we hope. But right now it's designed to stop that money that's flowing to what this administration considers woke organizations. It just stops it. And it could result in a lot of harm being done to people who lose work, services that are not provided. So simply let me say, if we want to address some of these things, we got to organize, guys. Rotary clubs are great because you get to share camaraderie and information. But as individuals too, we have some obligation. And Austin, come on up. Austin is our Northeast Regional Organizer. OK Policy has an arm called Together Oklahoma. It's the way we organize folk. Austin's been at it for 3 years. He works his Northeast region, which is a whole lot of this area in the Northeast part of the state. And his role is to create opportunities for folk. Just to engage. You got an interest in something? It may not be what we work on, but we can figure it out. Because we know that the skills and the tools and the techniques and strategies and tactics that we use to organize around taxes are the same to try to get a street sign or a stoplight or a pothole fixed. So our role is to kind of help teach, train, support, push, be in the back, give voice to, use whatever words that you want to use to regular folk. And regular folk are those just regular folk, but they're also people with positions and influence who are like mine and want to say, you know, I'm a person, I should have some say so in what happens in my government and my community. So I was going to talk just a few minutes about what he does and the areas he works in and how you can engage, and then we'll just stop and have questions.
Well, hi everyone. So I'm not as chipper as Angela. That's just kind of a fact. But yeah, I'm the Northeast Regional Organizer. So I was born and raised here in Tulsa. I've kind of been doing this now for 3 years, which is kind of insane, personally. But what I do and what I see across the state typically is that there's a lot of people in Oklahoma who really feel disconnected, powerless, that there's not really much you can do. There's not much you can influence or try to change. But that isn't necessarily always the case. I work in some policy areas that are really difficult. So we do work on food security, we do work on immigration recently. Those are places where it's very disheartening, where you can lose a lot of hope, where it does feel like there's not a lot of places you can really make an influence. A lot of the work that we have to do though, in some instances, to be honest with you, is how do you mitigate the harm? Because there's some really bad things coming down like in Oklahoma. Sometimes it's not about stopping something, it's about how do you make that cause less harm to people on the ground. And when you look at just the statistics or just driving around our city or our state, it's very evident there's a lot of people who really suffer. There's a lot of people who go without, whether that's in the material way of food, housing, healthcare, or just the general sense that things are hard, right? We have a lot of mental health issues in Oklahoma. We have drug abuse. We have a high suicide rate. All of these things cannot always be fixed by policy, but there is a way to make the government do more for people. Sometimes it has to happen locally. Sometimes it has to happen on the state level. But whenever people do come together and people do make their voices heard, a lot of people in power in this state don't hear that. They don't hear people say, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And so they just kind of do whatever. So if there's more of a concerted effort by people to say, you need to do something about the fact that we need housing in our community. We need services to help people who are experiencing addiction in our community. That does have an impact. You can get people to move. And I think another thing that's a challenge about this work too is it's not really, there's a lot of pain right now and a lot of fear, but this isn't work that's going to change what's happening today. It's work that's going to change what happens years from now. So it's about that future. What we try to do is organize in those local spaces. So I do work in Tulsa, I do work in Creek County, and Bristow, out in Pawnee County as well, trying to get people organized so they can go and they can speak to their lawmakers, so they can advocate for policies that they care about, things that impact their community directly. it can be hard, it can be a lot, but it is something that you can make a big difference to, even if it seems like a little thing. So just here in Tulsa County, we have quite a few folks. I mean, we got people working on any number of things. I would love to invite all of y'all out to come join us whenever we meet again as a community here in Tulsa, to come out and learn about what policies we're working on, how you can plug in, and also to learn what you're concerned about. And know what you can do to work towards those issues that are concerning you, that are keeping you up at night, that are keeping up the people in your community. So with that, I don't know if there's any other specific things y'all want to say.
You didn't bring cards. I didn't bring cards. Did you bring
I
cards?
didn't bring cards.
We'll get our email
We'll get it
addresses
going.
to you, so,
Well,
Is it on your website?
it is on our
Okay,
website.
well, tell you what, I'm gonna be uploading this talk later.
Okay.
And I'm going to be putting all that information on here. There's a
Okay,
couple
great.
of things that just happened yesterday. I'm curious about it. If OPI has anybody working on you. When the president says he wants to abolish FEMA, okay, but that means a lot to us, because if we get another F5 tornado
That's
that
right.
wipes out a
Right.
swath of town, it's going to inundate everything.
That's right.
And we're one of the top 5 states that get FEMA reimbursements.
Right.
And if that goes away, yes, we are a force, but we have our own limitations.
So let me tell you what, you're right, that's crazy. I don't think it's gonna happen. And he says we're gonna replace FEMA with some direct payouts to people. I mean, that could get crazy. We know how it is to pay money directly to people. It could get crazy. But here's what we've said, and we don't work on federal issues. We do join, we have national partners that we support their work. And one of the strategies they've asked us that we've been talking about nationally is bringing to bear pressure on our own elected officials in Congress. So one of my friends that we were talking and says, all these states with these Republican governors, they understand what it means to, I hope they do, to Oklahoma if we lose FEMA resources. I hope they understand if we were to lose Medicaid money in Oklahoma, it's not just to the member who is a Sooner Care member, but it's to the physicians and to the hospitals and all those other providers who receive Medicaid dollars for the services they provide. Training hospitals like that one right over wherever it is.
Across the street.
Right
Across the
there. You know, the graduate medical education money is enhanced through Medicaid. That's where the extra money comes through. So the plan is, can we put pressure on governors? Can we put pressure on our congressional folk? So that's where the defensive line becomes, particularly in red states. And that's what they've asked us. So now we have, people have come back to states like Oklahoma and say, you guys, we really, really do need you. So that, to be able to have some impact on that, you know, yeah, I serve with Tom Cole, I know him, I knew his mom, you know, one of our senators I know well, the other one from here I don't know at all. But it's not just me, it is all of us. So our strategy at the organizing level, at the local level, at the state level, is to really target our governor, who can send messages, who he himself will pick up the phone and call our congressional delegation and say, this is bad for Oklahoma. These are the kinds of strategies that we're gonna try to employ, but it does require all of our voices.
Getting away from federal for a minute. Yesterday, my senator, Dave Rader, was on the news talking about introducing a bill to put in place another moratorium on capital punishment until some things get fixed. And I was kind of taken aback because I know this man personally, and I was actually quite impressed that he's doing this, because if somebody like him understands there's a problem, listen to him.
There are a lot of legislators who would love to do that. It's really weird. I talk to them privately, and you hear that Coach is a friend.
It's his last term, so he has nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose. But even before, these members just are fearful of saying things. I'm just gonna tell you straight up. At the Capitol, they're concerned they're gonna get primaried by, you know, people further to the right And that did happen. I mean, it actually did happen this last election cycle. But I keep trying to say, but if you just say what you believe, as a former elected official, if I got booted out of office for standing for something I believed I thought was the best interest of my constituents, so be it. I was gonna say it though, and I was gonna do it. These members won't. Many of them won't say it. They won't stand up for it, so it's like they're not standing up for anything. That's why they need to hear that there are people in their districts that really do support these positions, that the moratorium or doing away with the death penalty or whatever it is.
It would be worth it just strictly on fiscal grounds. You know how much it costs
That's
to execute?
absolutely right.
How much it costs?
Life sentence in prison is a lot cheaper, but moving people out of prison, one of the other bills we're working on is to take old sick people who are in prison home, just send them places. It was something that I was gonna say that, we were talking about organizing. So what our organizers will also be doing, will be trying to host events right here in district, with your representatives and your senators. You know, they'll show up on Fridays at Rotary clubs or, chamber meetings. They always, the members come home Thursday afternoons, Friday, they're booked solid with the business community. Why not book solid with regular folk? So we're gonna try to start arranging some of those accountability sessions. They won't know that's what they are, but that's what
Yeah. And we also have, it's a bit of a ways out, we also do a Day of Action at our Capitol, which is a big event that we do every year. This year it's on April 30th. So that's when we invite people out just to go and speak with their lawmakers, talk with other people that we got working at OK Policy about different issues that they might care about as well. But that's also one where we bust people in from Tulsa down there as well. But throughout the year as well, especially now the session's started up basically, if you do have a pet project, something that you do care deeply about, we have the ability and the funds to help give you those tools, help you get to the Capitol as well. Make phone calls, make emails, whatever you need. Especially if it's something that is directly impacting you, impacting someone that you love.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What is the current expenditure level for prisoners in prisons and jails?
Annual expense. I'm gonna take a wild guess, and I'm just trying to visualize the last report. Like maybe 15,000 a year.
It used to be 29.
Well, let us see.
And the other thing
Google.
is-
Let's see what Google tells us.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to incarcerate a person in Oklahoma annually? Let's see what Google says. Between 2947 and 39,482. I must have given you a number when I was a legislator, which was a long time ago. That's a whole lot of money.
And then the average per pupil expenditure for students in public schools.
A whole lot less.
Not that much.
A whole lot less.
Less than that.
So I know the point you're making, obviously, yes. What's our priority? Where are our priorities? It's just crazy and it doesn't have to be that way. I still believe that most Oklahomans are thinking just like you're thinking. But it's kind of like that silent majority. They don't get hurt.
Yeah. And you know, like in a lot of small towns in Oklahoma, just across the state, you have a lot of issues. We're still in the midst of an opioid epidemic. So you have a lot of people in small towns across Oklahoma in decision-making positions who are like, we need to stop locking people up. We need to actually start trying to provide services for people. That might actually cost us less money at the long run, but I think it's one of those things where it takes time for that to trickle up, right? So when we have Dave Rader suggesting certain policies, we have a lot of different legislators who, I think are generally very conservative, but they do support criminal justice reforms because they know that locking people up is not how you actually help people. That's not how you solve the problem. There might be some people who do need to be removed from the general population, but by and large, most people have the ability to reintegrate into society and should be given that opportunity. But
I think we know too that when somebody is in their little core group of caucus, they act differently than they do when they're out knocking doors with the public at large. Because to win, even on the right, you have to get back to the middle. because, yes, we're gonna get some extreme fringe stuff.
But I would also say too, just based off of our experience working on sales tax relief credit, on some like tenants protection bills as well, people don't always know everything.
No.
And so there are a lot of Democrats in the legislature who make mistakes as well and are not always supporting.
Well,
There's very
anybody
prominent
who's been a
Democrats
tenant,
who
anybody-
voted for a very negative anti-immigrant bill.
Anybody
So-
who's been a tenant and or a landlord, like I've been a tenant and a landlord, you get very familiar with Title 41 OS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And Oklahoma is definitely a landlord
Friendly state.
friendly state. And all those, most we've discovered through our research, most of those bad actors are really out-of-state corporations that own these, they're not Oklahoma landlords and tenants. So, I mean, it's been really hard for us to work with property owner associations, the state realtors though have been in support of most of our work at the Capitol. But yeah, bad actors are pretty much not Oklahomans and just trying to convince legislators that this is not, Lloyd Rader has Lloyd Rader, many of you probably don't have a clue, some of us do remember, okay, all right. Senator Dave Rader, Coach Rader, has a brother-in-law, who's a property owner.
Derek.
Okay.
He's a classmate.
So he was carrying a bill, a really good bill for us, until his brother-in-law got to him, or his brother got to him. And then it just went away. We said, but Senator, this won't affect your brother-in-law. He's a good guy. If he's a good guy, you don't have to worry about it. So, anyway. Yes, ma'am.
I would pay a fine for this, but I'm gonna make a plug for Leadership Tulsa, because we do know that way to change is to, run for offices on the local level. And we have a program called, LT Represent, where it's a series of classes where you learn how to run for an office. Yes.
I'm glad you said that, because when we were talking about voting, when you look at how many, particularly legislative seats, are only on one side of the ticket, doesn't give, particularly since we have close primaries, I mean, there are a whole lot of races some of us don't ever get a chance to vote in. Yes, sir.
What do you think, why it took so long for 780 and 781, the funds to get back to these communities? Because 10 years is way, way too long.
And there was an a disagreement, no consensus, let me be tactful. There was no consensus on how you determine the amount of the savings. And it went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. There are also those that didn't ever want to take the money out of the system. Those were initiative petitions. Those were direct voter engagement policies. So it was not like it was fully supported by the legislature.
But if it was voted upon by the people and it's in law,
Then do it.
yeah.
Oh, that seems logical, right? And the way it was written, it had to be done, but it only had to be done after it was determined the amount of the savings. So you can delay the amount, and then you never do it. But I think finally we got a group of lawmakers, some who are not our typical allies necessarily, who understood the value and the importance. And we're still negotiating if the formula is the right formula, even though we know when we paid the dollar amount, we did not get that amount. What was appropriated was still less than.
All right, I think we're gonna have to wrap up.
Oh, we're having way too much
I know.
fun.
I would just say one other thing. If you're interested in like learning more or talking with us more, we didn't bring cards, but we have this out here so you can come. And
I will make sure to send you the link to all their stuff in the email. We do a little 50-50 raffle that we have here.
Oh,
for
wow.
so if one of you wouldn't mind drawing a number out of there.
Select the winner.
Last three numbers. Make somebody happy.
The last three numbers are 940.
If it's staying again.
Nope,
boycott.
I didn't even buy it. I didn't even pay into it this time.
Here it is.
Oh, there we go. Awesome, congratulations. I will also remind you.
Just put it back in.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Very much. I would like to just remind everybody that Rotary is a nonpartisan group. This meeting today was in no means to push either agenda either way. It's just an information session.
OPI is also nonpartisan.
Yes, for policy, they said that. And so I'm just as a little reminder, but when stuff starts getting close to home, I'm not gonna be quiet. And I think I feel safe enough to say that in this group, and I appreciate you all very, very, very much. More than you will know. Coming up email, you'll get some information on the Super Bowl party coming up, and also OK Policies link, so you can sign up if you're interested in joining any of their letter writing campaigns, emails, community meetings. There was something in community organizing that I learned years ago called righteous anger. And I'm in that mode right now. Not doing anything stupid, but sometimes the anger hits a level where you feel righteous about it and you've got to do something about it. And I'm planning on doing that, and if you want to join me, you're more than welcome to. Again, this is not my platform. This is Rotary, nonpartisan, non-political, supporting of either party or organization. So thank you guys for being here. We'll end with our four-way test. Bring that up. You wouldn't mind standing if you're able. Is it the truth?
Truth. Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And will it be fun?
Will anybody find
All
out?
right. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it.